Hey, what's happening, everybody? It's just after 9:30, and you are exactly where you should be. You are kicking it with Johnny Gaz Sports on a Tuesday evening. We are live Tuesdays and Thursdays at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Today, we are heavy on our Detroit Lions. We have so many good topics ahead of us. We're going to go around the D. We're going to hit on our Tigers, our Pistons, and of course, we're going to spend a little bit of time on the Myles Garrett trade. We got to talk a little bit about that. I want to talk about the no-nonsense approach for this Lions team this offseason as we head towards the 2026 regular season. And then I have something really fun planned for us at the end of today's live. We're going to go through the top 10 Lions heading into 2026. I've made us a fun graphic we're going to be able to play with. It's actually editable. Another fun made-up word, I think, editable. And we're going to do it together. I have a fun graphic we're going to use. We're going to break down our top 10 most impactful Lions heading into 2026. There's been a lot of recent reports coming out, recent stories kind of laying out the top 25 most important Lions or impactful Lions. Well, I've broken it down to our top 10, and we're going to figure that out together tonight, guys. We're going to have a lot of fun. What's going on? Don't know Grit's in the house. Appreciate everybody for getting involved early in the chat. Make sure to slap that like button. It's the best free way to help the stream out. Let's share it out to the feeds. Let's get your friends and family involved so we can talk some Detroit sports. How you doing this evening? How's your life going? I'll tell you what, right? This is a weird week. I think it's a week, after the Memorial Day weekend. You have a long weekend typically. A lot of weird things kind of transitioning as the kids are heading towards the last portion of school now that we're into June. Rec baseball season's winding down, so the all-star season's starting to pick up, so some things that way are happening. And then in senior living, things just get a little bit crazy in the spring and summer. Everybody's trying to make that move before the fall, before the winter hits, so everyone's planning ahead for the future. So there's just a lot of busyness around Johnny Gaz Sports and Johnny Gaz's family in general, but it's been one heck of a week. I'm glad to be back here with you guys on a Tuesday. How's it going? How's it going? How's it going? Cheers, everybody. It says here in Texas, at least where I am, school ends in May. Hey, all right. So school's out, baby. You like that. When does school start then in that case? It's pretty early. I know everybody's a little bit different. Yeah, kids are getting excited. A couple weeks left of school. So my son's kind of got the senioritis going. He's only 9, but he's ready to be done with school already. He just has a lot of after-school activities he really enjoys, so he gets into that. Kids start in August. Yeah, it's kind of the same. End of early September, really, when the kids go back here in not only Michigan, but also in New York. But as we typically do here at Johnny Gaz Sports, I think we should start by going around the D. All right, around the D. And we actually have some good news to start off with. Now, last several weeks, every time it seems like we've gone live and we go around the D, and we got to kick it off with our Detroit Tigers, it was always something negative. Well, they've won 2 in a row, and tonight they actually beat the Rays 8-0, so they are now on a 2-game winning streak. Let's not jinx it just yet, but 2 in a row, let me tell you. What's up, Jody? How you doing? Good to see you. Glad to see you back in the chat. Love having Jody around. How you doing? We're just kicking it off with a quick round with our Tigers. Again, they went 8-0 today. And a day where phenom young Kevin McGonigal actually got a rest day. Offense held their own. Torres homered in his first game back. That was good to see. He leads the game off with a home run in the first inning. Wenzel Perez continuing his hot bat. He had another home run today in the second inning. And Riley Green also had a home run in the 7th. Tigers end up winning this 8-0. Jack Flaherty with a good performance on the day. 5 innings pitched, only 5 hits, no earned runs, only 2 walks to 6 strikeouts. And he really needed a win. Let me tell you, he's now 1-7 on the year. It's good to see him get a 1 in the win column. And 4 innings pitched from DeJesus. He wrapped it up. He also pitched very well today. No hits, no earned runs, no walks, 4 Ks. So 2 good pitchers on the day for the Tigers. And this is finally a situation where I always talked about it. The Tigers just were not able to string together a game where the bats and the pitching all seem to come together. Good teams, that happens all the time. For this 26 iteration of the Tigers, it just wasn't happening on a regular basis. and they finally get one today. Tigers win 8-0. They move to 24-38. And again, 2 in a row. So you can't start building positive momentum without starting somewhere, and they've now won 2 in a row. It'll be their first series win in their last 8 or 9. So that's a positive. So you got to feel good about that. Let me know how you guys are feeling about the Tigers. Did anybody watch the game today? Did you catch that leadoff home run by Gleyber Torres? That was certainly a good sign to see, because again, you're going to start to see some of these guys come back. Javi Baez, Parker Meadows potentially, and of course in the pitching staff with Tariq Skubal. So some pieces will come back. I think the problem is the Tigers have now dug themselves such a deep hole that it's hard to think like some sort of 2024 miracle is going to happen. So we'll see. We'll take it one game at a time. I will keep you posted on the Tiger scores every day through Johnny Gaz Sports, all the channels there. All the channels there. One thing I want to hit on, though, again, it's funny that McGonigal actually got a rest day, but I just want to give him a little bit of love because through everything, obviously the Tigers have now won two in a row, so we're feeling pretty good about that. But in a general sense, the season really hasn't gone the way we've expected here. Injuries, obviously it's been difficult to watch, but in the middle of all that frustration, Kevin McGonigal has given reason for optimism. He's really played a lot of games even for a rookie. And we got to remember, he's only 21 years old through all this, and he's already become one of the more important players on this roster. I mean, so much so that I think AJ Hinch has needed to give him a day off because they were just putting an incredible workload on him through the first, 61 games of the season now. He played 58 of their 61 leading up to today. I mean, so that's not just because he's developing, that's because they're relying on him. And that's pretty incredible at that age. And he's really answered all the questions from day one. I mean, if you go all the way back to opening day, he made an immediate impact. Since then, he's kind of continued to prove why the Tigers can rely on him, why they wanted to sign him long-term just weeks into his big league career, which is pretty incredible. I think Detroit saw a cornerstone player, something that they can rely on for the future and can be a centerpiece for this Tigers team. And honestly, what stands out the most isn't necessarily even the talent. It's the fact that he's been so consistent. He's really been the only consistent hitter on this Tigers team. Riley Green's been good. Dylan Dingler's been good. But, I mean, consistently from day one, it's been Kevin McGonigal. Even when they've struggled, he competes every single day. You can see it in each at-bat he gets. He's getting on base, quality at-bats every single time. Just showing maturity for someone much older than he actually is. So they might be where they're at in the standings right now as far as the Tigers, but they certainly have Kevin McGonigal exactly where they want him to be. So if you're searching for any reasons to continue to believe in the future of this team, it's got to be through Kevin McGonigal. They're going through, I think, some growing pains and obviously some unexpected pains in 2026, but they found something every organization is searching for, and it's a young star that you can build around, and Kevin McGonigal has proven that he is that. And if he keeps developing at this pace, I think you'll be able to look back on this season not as a complete loss, but as a year the franchise cornerstone may have arrived for this team. So let's hope they can build on that for the future. So 8-0 today for the Tigers. Again, I think it was a great sign, hopefully, of some things to come as this team gets a little bit healthier. Hopefully the pitching can round into form a little bit, and we'll see. We'll see. There's a lot of games left ahead of them, but they got a long road ahead. A long road ahead. Jody watched the game. All right, so Jody's still hanging in there. When is Jackson Jobe returning? That's a good question. Jackson Jobe should be back. Let's check on his status. Because he's another piece to add in here. Currently on the 60-day IL, recovering from Tommy John. So that's going to be tough. Don't worry, I'm back. Sorry. I went away. The bad man went away. No, he's on 60-day IL. Still in rehab. Hopefully be ready for game. I don't know. We'll have to check on his status. I'm not getting a ton of information here. Threw his first bullpen in return from Tommy John. This was back in April. So Pretty soon. So actually, I'll keep looking into that. That's a good question, Jody. I mean, they certainly would welcome Joe back into that rotation. They need more arms. The Casey Myles thing really set them back a little bit. But yeah, I mean, watching this team, Jody, I give you a lot of credit. If you're watching every day, you're really hanging in there. Ultimately, let's hope that some of the positive things we've seen over the last couple of days, obviously the power, can spark every now and again. But today they had the bats going with the pitching. So let's see if they can kind of stack some performances on top of each other, continue to win some series. I think that's how you kind of pull yourself out of this. So let's keep going. I want to flip it over to a Pistons topic. Obviously, Pistons are in the midst of their offseason. And there hasn't been any major word, I think, on the big contract we're waiting to hear on, and that's Jalen Duren. We've talked kind of over and over again through these lives about what the Pistons should do, could do, the effects one way or another on Cade Cunningham and what he could have a say in these contracts. We talked about that. There was a short that came out that I had put out there just indicating Cade's relationship may have an impact on some of these contracts. Well, one of the, I think, more important contracts to consider that hasn't really been talked about a whole bunch is what they end up doing with Ausar Thompson. Because I think this is going to be a very important decision for them to make very soon, because he's now officially eligible for what they call a rookie scale extension this summer. And if you're Trajan Langdon and the Pistons, it feels like it's kind of a no-brainer decision. And I think you would expect the Pistons and Ausar to get into extension talks before he can become a restricted free agent. Now we know Ausar Thompson's upside and downside, and obviously he's not a polished offensive player. There's no jump shot. Defenses can sag off of him. He's not putting up scoring numbers that typically lead to massive contracts, right? But elite defense carries, and that's incredibly difficult to find. I mean, the head coach of the Cleveland Cavaliers gave him so much credit even after the series was over, because they had to completely adjust what they did when he was on the floor. They basically said anytime he was near the ball to move it away from him, get the ball away from him, because he's a ball hawk. And Ausar this year established himself as maybe the best perimeter defender in all of basketball. He earned first team all defensive honors, and he finished third in defensive player of the year voting. That is incredible. A 23-year-old wing who can guard multiple positions. He disrupts passing lanes. He creates turnovers. He completely changes the energy of the game when he's in the lineup for this Pistons team. And those kind of players just don't grow on trees. They love his work ethic, the competitiveness that he brings, the willingness to want to be better, to want to continue to improve. They have him as a major piece to this franchise's future alongside the superstar Cade Cunningham. Now, the projected number that I've seen out there is somewhere around 5 years and $162 million. This is for Ausar Thompson. That's a huge commitment. But the Pistons aren't paying necessarily even what Ausar is today. They're paying for what he could become over the next 5 years. And I already know what he is defensively. So could he continue to build on some of these other skills that make him even more valuable to the Pistons? And that's where I think this thing gets really exciting. If he develops even an average three-point shot, below average three-point shot, we're talking about a player who could become one of the premier two-way players in all of basketball. That defensive foundation is already there. The athleticism is already there. The motor, all of that is there. And it's just really more about the offensive growth. That's the final piece. So for me, I don't think the Pistons need to overthink this. He is a cornerstone piece. When you draft a player, the dream is that it's someone that you can build around for a decade. Ausar Thompson has shown enough that he's proven he can be one of those guys. I think you lock him up, you keep him here for as long as you can, and let him continue to grow alongside Cade Cunningham and the young core. And I really think you have something for the future. I mean, I'm not comparing him necessarily to Ben Wallace, but if you think about where Ben Wallace's downfalls were on the offensive side, he completely made up for that, for everything he gave to the Pistons defensively, and all of the other attributes I've kind of listed here for Ausar Thompson. It's very similar in their character style of play. I just don't think you let a player like that leave the building. I expect them to get that deal done and wrap him up long term. What do you guys think, Pistons fans? Is it important that the Pistons and Austin Thompson come to a deal quicker than later, sooner than later? Does a deal for Austin Thompson affect what they do with Jalen Duren, or vice versa, right? Because that's a huge piece to this conversation. I mean, it's a no-brainer to me that they lock up Austin Thompson, but does a supermax contract commitment to Jalen Duren change what they could do with Austin Thompson? And that's a scary thought. Jody says, basketball for me out of the big American three is the one sport I just never got into. The squeaky shoes alone. Don't come for me, basketball fans. No worries. No worries. It's okay. It's okay. My son does not like the squeaky shoe sound either, so it's all good. Oh, I know. You know, don't know. It's funny. Yeah. Was it yesterday or was that today? I thought it was yesterday. I could be wrong, but in either sense. Yeah, the Armando Galarraga, you know, we hit that on the Detroit Sports Time Machine. I don't feel the need to bring it up again, but thank you for bringing it to our hearts just one more time. They should make that deal on July 6th. Let's hope so. What's up, Mile Marker? How you doing? I appreciate that, Jody. Jody's still happy for how far the Pistons got. And that's it. I mean, we're all Detroit sports fans at heart. You know, it's difficult because, look, I've been talking to a lot of Tigers fans who are having a lot of trouble watching the Tigers, for instance. So I'm kind of relating it back to that. It's like you're still a Tigers fan at heart, but sometimes it's just a tough watch. So yeah, I think the Pistons wrap up Austin Thompson sooner than later. I really think I although it could have an effect on the bigger picture for the financial side of things, I just think it's something the Pistons have to do to solidify their young core long term. I just don't think you let a guy like Austin Thompson hit the open market. That's what you lock up. They can figure out his offensive inefficiencies in other ways. In fairness, I'm a Pistons fan, not a basketball fan. That's okay. I love everyone admitting their truth. Everyone come out with their truth right now. Go. No, I appreciate you guys. Don't Know Grit, Mile Marker, Jody. I really appreciate you guys for being involved in the chat, for coming along, for Johnny Gaz Live. Thank you guys so much. We're going to jump over into our main topics of the day. I know we're all here to talk some Lions. We got some big topics, so let's jump over. Let's get into it. All right. We got our main topic of the day. I got a few things to go over. I think we got to start with this Myles Garrett contract, right? I mean, although it's a little bit of old news at this point, but the truth is we know what happened. Kind of overnight, we get the news. Myles Garrett officially heading to the Los Angeles Rams. And I think, you know, this is one of the bigger moves in the NFL recently. And whether you wanted the Lions to trade for him or not, I think, you know, whether you thought that was in the realm of possibility, it definitely changes the landscape of what's going on in the NFC. I think it clearly makes the Rams the favorite. They give up Jared Verse, a first, second, and third round pick, to land arguably the most dominant defensive player in all of football. Now, this LA Rams team we know is an organization that's willing to give away picks, willing to sell the farm in an effort to win a Super Bowl, and they've done it in the past. I mean, the Lions were a part of that transaction, obviously with Matthew Stafford and the Jared Goff flip, which then led the Rams to a Super Bowl in 2021, and they're looking to do a similar thing this year with Myles Garrett on the defensive side, and they've really loaded up that side of the football. I know the ultimate big picture question is, does it hurt their long-term future? And I just think the Rams as an organization are okay with that. They're okay with a couple down years, but even in the Rams sense, if you look at their record, I think they've made more playoffs than the Detroit Lions have since 2021, even with that philosophy. So there's ways to do it. And I think Lions fans in general had always tried to connect the dots to Myles Garrett in some way, or at least some big splash move. And Myles Garrett was always kind of that dream scenario. I think analysts, fans, media, they've all debated whether Brad Holmes would or should make this sort of blockbuster move. Now, ultimately, we know the Lions' philosophy. Brad Holmes has stayed true to that philosophy, building through the draft, protecting the team's long-term future. Nobody expected them to make this sort of move. And that was sort of my opinion piece today, is that through all of this, and we can talk about the impact Garrett will have and, what that could have looked like. But the truth is the Lions just don't make that sort of move. That's just not in their DNA. And only time will tell if this was the right call or right decision. I don't think the Rams care. I think they're all in, and they're going to take their shot at it. They may have created one of the biggest obstacles standing between the Lions and the Super Bowl, truthfully. And I think that's really the point of this discussion. I mean, some of the sports books already moved the Rams as the favorite to win it all, and you can't really blame them or see why not. But think about the NFC right now. You got the Eagles, you got the 49ers, you got Detroit, you got the Rams. They were already dangerous before adding the two-time Defensive Player of the Year, and now you're putting a guy on their team that had a record-setting 23-sack season. So, of course, Myles Garrett makes the Rams better. That's clear. The question is, on the other side, did Detroit do enough? Because now they're in a position where they got to go through that team. No, they don't play them in the regular season, but if they are going to square up with the LA Rams, it's going to be in the playoffs. The Lions are betting on their current talent. They were betting on Aiden Hutchinson returning and being healthy, and he came back and he's healthy, and they need another step forward from him. They're betting on their young defensive pieces developing. They're betting on depth, culture, this roster balance that they've built. On the other side, the Rams pushed all their chips in the middle of the table. It's a completely different philosophy. It's kind of what makes this whole thing fascinating, and it's a great discussion. If Detroit reaches the NFC Championship game and loses because they can't consistently pressure the quarterback, fans will probably point back to a day like today or yesterday and ask why the Lions didn't make a stronger push for a guy like Garrett or a different type of splash trade. But if the Lions go beat the Rams or go win a Super Bowl in some way, shape, or form and continue to build this sustainable success, then Brad Holmes will look like the smartest guy in football again. I think he started to after the first couple of years, but then when you don't win the ultimate prize and you see other teams supersede you because they're willing to make those moves, it starts to move you to the back of that line. And that's the reality. So I don't know if this trade is necessarily all about just Myles Garrett. It's about two completely different team-building philosophies, and what the Lions are doing and what the Rams have done and will continue to do. Rams are all in, Lions staying the course. Just what it is. So here's my question for you guys in chat. Is Brad Holmes making the right moves by refusing to mortgage the future? Or will Lions fans look back at this trade and trades like this as the moves that shifted power away from the Lions in the NFC? Let me know what you guys think. Would you have been a fan of a trade like this? Again, I'm not saying the Lions could have made this trade. But if it was possible, would you have been a fan of it? We know the Lions would have had to give up a player as part of this deal. I know a lot of people go, well, it had to have been Aiden Hutchinson. It had to have been Aiden Hutchinson in that case. We don't know what the Rams would have taken. And I think there's other players that they would have been happy in being compensated with in return. Lions have a lot of quality players on this roster that could have been a piece to that. Again, I'm not saying it would have been Aiden Hutchinson, but it doesn't guarantee it. So I think there were other ways to skin the cat with this. Would you have been a fan of the Lions making this sort of move? Jody, Lions, by far my favorite topic. Love the football. I'm glad you're here for it, Jody. That's the thing. And don't know that's it. I mean, it's like they figured out how to manage the up and down of throwing all your chips in and doing it the right way. Not every team can do that. And I agree with that as well. Don't know. I think the price would have been too high maybe for the Lions in that case. Multiple firsts. Again, some people may have been willing to give that up. That is pretty crazy. So, don't know brings up a great point. Brad Holmes from the Les Snead tree and just operates completely different. And it's funny that you didn't take some of that philosophy and carry it with you. I think the talent evaluation is similar, but I just think you're right. I think in a general sense, the organizational philosophy couldn't be any different. It's crazy. Jody says, I heard people suggesting we should have traded Branch or McNeil for Garrett. I say definitely not Branch, and probably equally regarding McNeil. McNeil was injured last year or recovering from one. Yeah, McNeil is such a big piece to this, Jody. I think Aleem McNeil's impact this season will carry a lot of weight for what not only the Lions' defensive line is, but their entire defense. I mean, when he was good in 2024, the Lions' defense was good. Even when Aiden Hutchinson went out, Aleem McNeil was sort of holding his own there. Then when Aleem McNeil went down, everything sort of fell apart defensively in 24. It couldn't have been Hutch. The math doesn't work. Well, look, I'm not going to sit here and say that, especially because I'm not a cap expert, or break this down to where I'm going to make the deal work. But what I do know is that they could have made this work in some way, shape, or form if they wanted to, if they really, really wanted to, because the word on the street was the Cleveland Browns didn't want to make this trade. The LA Rams continue to add pieces to this mix, add an additional compensation. Maybe that's when Jared Verse got involved. There's a way to work this out. Again, I'm not saying the Lions should have made this move. I'm not clamoring for Myles Garrett. I don't know if I would sell the future. The point of this conversation is we know the Lions will not make a move like this. Will this philosophy hold them back from a Super Bowl? They may be able to have sustained success. They may be able to continue to have winning seasons, make the playoffs, stay in the graphic, keep the fans satisfied to a certain extent, keep your wait list for your season tickets as long as it is. They can continue to do that, but will it keep them from winning the ultimate prize? That's really the question. I'm in the boat of I want to win a Super Bowl. So if it takes a move like this, I'm okay with it. I'm not saying this was the move. I didn't even have Myles Garrett in my radar this offseason. I had committed myself to what the Lions had done. You guys have heard me. People have been around the lives and been around this channel long enough. I started off this offseason sort of hot against Brad Holmes, wanting him to do something like this. Give us something to feel good about this team shooting for a Super Bowl. That didn't really happen early in the offseason, and I kind of had gotten over that fact. And then they started to add the right depth, I thought. They're building the secondary, trying to make up for what's happened in the safety room. They drafted pretty well, I thought, with the Blake Miller pick. They added the edge. So I just thought they did some good things within their philosophy to sort of bring me back in. They reeled me back in, made me feel really good. And it was the splash move here that just kind of brought it back to the forefront. Like, oh, that's right. Other teams do this. Other teams do go for it all and really try to win a Super Bowl. It's just a different way. It's a different philosophy. It's not that the Lions way can't win a Super Bowl. I think it just becomes harder in today's NFL, but we're going to find out. Only time will tell with this move, and hopefully the Lions can work their way into one before this window is closed. Branch, Gibbs, and TA would really be the only pieces that work financially the same way as Verse. Well, one, we don't know if the Rams would have taken any of those players, but I would have. Look, Terry and Arnold, I would give away in a heartbeat. I just don't think they would have taken him as part of that trade. I would think about giving Brian Branch for Myles Garrett. I absolutely would have. So I mean, if we're playing that game, and you can hate me if you want, but I would give up Brian Branch and a few picks for Myles Garrett. I would. I like Brian Branch. I don't want to give him away, but if it's for Myles Garrett, I'd think about it. And you're right, Jody. I mean, Brian Branch is the Swiss Army knife for this defense. When he's healthy, I mean, you want him in the lineup. I don't want to give away Brian Branch. Don't get me wrong. But if you're telling me that deal was on the table and that was the player that made this thing work, I would absolutely think about it. It may be recency bias, but didn't we just watch a team win the Lombardi by drafting and developing and then adding a mid-range contracts and free agency? Yeah, I mean, Seattle, like I said, showed that you can do it that way. I think they're going to fall off pretty hard this year as well. So I don't know if they're drafting and developing as well as some other teams. But you're right. There's a couple different ways to do this. I mean, here's the deal. Seattle won one. They got there. They won one. The Lions haven't gotten there. So, I mean, yeah, you can say that, but the Lions organization hasn't done it. So, I mean, what's up, Lightning? How you doing, Millicent? Good to see you. And as always, we got to throw you one of these. We haven't had one all day long yet. We got to get one. Happy Tuesday. See you, Millicent. We're talking about the Myles Garrett trade. What's your feelings on it? I mean, this is why we talk about it, because it brings up a lot of different feelings for a lot of different people. And I think it's okay to feel one way or another. Again, I am not saying I wanted the Lions to go get Myles Garrett. I'm not saying they should have given away the farm and make this be the deal. But it really puts back in my mind the idea of, well, when the right deal comes available, if Brad Holmes see it that way, will he pull the trigger? I don't know. I don't think he would. But I'm not dissatisfied with where the Lions are at. None of this conversation changes necessarily the way I feel about the roster. It just made me kind of remember the early feelings of this offseason. It brought it back to light. And again, the bottom line is now the Lions have to go through this Rams team. So if we want to get past all this and stop this conversation, we got to start to plan how the Lions are going to beat this Rams team in a playoff sense. Let's think about an NFC championship game, having to go to SoFi to go through the Rams, to get through Myles Garrett, through Matt Stafford. I mean, that's a huge obstacle, which now has been created in front of the Lions here in the NFC. So this easy schedule is all good, but you now have this looming juggernaut waiting for you. Millicent says, one player does not make a team. I'm good with where we're at. No worries. We're all good with that. I bet the Lions could have had a real offer on the table with BB and 2 first. Again, the Lions weren't making that deal. They don't want to give away Brian Branch. But maybe they could have made it work. Well, there could be that too. Let's hope. Let's hope, right? Let's hope the regular season schedule lends itself to the Lions having a number 1 seed or a higher seed. That's possible too. I'd much rather have them come to Ford Field. I'd feel better about that. Feel way better about that. So another topic I want to hit on. Pride of Detroit had come out with an interesting article about what the most important thing for the Lions is, or the biggest need in 2026. And they took kind of the avenue that I think a lot of people are scared to take. It's a topic that I think alienates a lot of people. I mean, we just had one with Myles Garrett, but let's add to it now with one more. Injuries, right? One of the most important things I think the Lions need to have happen in 2026 is they need some injury luck. This team over the last several seasons has been the most injured in the NFL. In 2024, the defensive injuries alone were laughable. I mean, every season we spend the offseason talking about edge rushers, offensive linemen, linebackers, free agents, draft picks, blockbuster trades, just like today. But really, according to recent analysis, and it's not even hard to see, the thing that the Lions need heading into this year isn't a player at all. It's injury, luck, something on that end of the world to give them some luck on this injury side. It's hard to argue past this. Think about what this team has gone through the last several years. I mean, we all sit here and say that Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell have built one of the most talented rosters in football. Pro Bowlers, all pros, elite young talent, one of the strongest cultures in the NFL, no doubt about it. But every year it feels like the injury bug shows up in some way, shape, or form. The Lions have consistently ranked near the bottom of the NFL in adjusted games lost. This is according to the Pride of Detroit website. It's a metric that measures the impact that injuries have on a team's performance. What's even more alarming is that the Lions haven't finished in the top half of the league in this category from 2020 through 2025. Again, this is adjusted games lost to injury. Now, if you look at that compared to recent Super Bowl teams, it's kind of shocking. The last 12 Super Bowl participants ranked 6th or better in injury luck metrics, and every Super Bowl winner was at least in the top half of the league. Okay, that's not a coincidence. Injuries relate to how far teams can go. I mean, that's no secret. Football is a very violent sport. Every team's going to have some injuries, but for the ones that make the deep playoff runs, Usually they're avoiding those big catastrophic injuries, the ones that take out their mega players. Lions just haven't had that luxury the last few years. And what's remarkable is that despite all of those injuries, they've still hung in there. They managed an amazing season in 2024. We know last year at 9-8 was a little bit of a down year, but they still had a ton of injuries to deal with. The roster's been good enough to overcome all of that adversity when it really would have sunk other rosters really through the NFL. But imagine if this roster actually catches a break this year. Just think about that. Think about if Aiden Hutchinson, the defensive front, the defensive line in general, linebackers, some of the secondary, what if they all stayed healthy? Again, I know not everyone's going to stay healthy, but what if a majority of them stayed healthy? What if we didn't lose our impact players all throughout the year? Imagine entering December where our best players are still available. That's crazy. It's crazy to think about because we haven't had that. It could be the difference between being a playoff team and then a legitimate Super Bowl contender. That's what injuries can do to this kind of roster. And that's why I think this conversation, that article, I thought was eye-opening. It's hard to talk about. We don't want to lean on that as the necessarily excuse to why they haven't won the last couple of years, but it's certainly a big part of it. Fans keep asking, what does Brett Holmes still need to add? We talked over and over again, several off seasons about adding an edge rusher. We need to revamp the offensive line. We need more linebackers. We got to make up for the safety depth. And yeah, depth certainly helps. But the reality is the Lions have built a championship caliber roster. They've had one the last several seasons. The biggest thing standing between Detroit and a Super Bowl run may simply just be having their stars on the field. Easy to say, but it's the truth. If this team finally can get some kind of average injury luck, or better yet, let's say good injury luck, however you define that, the rest of the NFC might want to take notice. And I think that may be the scariest thought of all. So that's hard to predict. No one can sit here and say, what it is that they can do to stay healthier. I think they've done some things this offseason to try and limit the engagement. One of those things being the joint practices. We know they've moved away from those, so that should hopefully hold back some injuries here and there. Some of the competitiveness at camp, which you certainly fully expect, I think will be ramped down in certain segments of these offseason programs so that people can stay healthy. And they need to get guys back. I mean, you have guys rehabbing right now, both of those safeties. There's a lot to worry about. So I just think it's a great topic of discussion. Let me know what you guys think. Can the Lions get some injury luck this year? Is that really the true difference from this team being a playoff team to actually competing for a Super Bowl? Oh, man, Millicent, I'm going to meet Amon-Ra on Sunday. No, that's cool. Is he doing a meet and greet? Where's that going to be at? That's cool. Jody says, I will say Brett Holmes doesn't seem like he'll ever go get a big player. Look what he did last year at the trade deadline. Nada. P.S. Is Rodrigo going to be back early this season? Yeah, Rodrigo's ready to go. He's in. He's good. He I think he was at OTAs. I forget exactly what his status was, but he'll be ready to go week 1. He'll be a big part to this defense. They need linebackers next to Jack Campbell. They got to figure out how this new scheme is going to look. And I think he's a big part of it. Rodrigo's going to be ready to go. Yeah, safety depth. I mean, they've really brought in some good pieces. I like what they've done in the secondary. I really think if they get production from both safeties, if Kirby can give them something, if Branch comes back healthy, which we expect, I really think the secondary should be a huge asset to this defense. Really big. Oh, that was fun. Yeah, we did an awesome draft day party with me and Don't Know. That was a good time. We'll get together real soon again, buddy. We'll have another good party. I'm in a car driving home from a mini vacation in Saugatuck, Michigan. I keep losing it. I'm sorry, Millicent. We'll be live, till about 10:30, maybe a little after. No worries at all. I just appreciate you having in chat. Thank you guys again for getting involved. Make sure to slap the like button if you haven't already. That kind of leads me into this conversation. We're talking about this, changing their schedule a little bit. The Lions taking a little bit of a different approach to this offseason. We'll call it kind of a no-nonsense approach. I mean, you've heard Dan Campbell after the first week of OTAs. He came out, had the press conference. He even sounded a little bit different. And I think one thing that's becoming pretty clear to me now heading into the regular season as we get closer to preseason, so on and so forth, the vibe is just a little different, right? We're going to use that term, the vibe. You know, watching Dan Campbell over the previous years, there's been a lot of energy, passion, jokes, a lot of excitement. But I just thought he felt a little bit different, sounded a little bit different after OTAs. Had a little bit of different tone. He didn't really want to hype up individual players. Wasn't interested in talking about guys that he thinks will break out. Handing out praise for just a few spring practices they had. He wasn't interested in it. He kind of laughed it off, saying that, you know, he's not going to praise guys that are in their pajamas. That was kind of the term. And this is a coach that isn't buying into offseason narratives anymore. You know, he's not going to let that cloud the judgment within the building. And I don't think you can blame him, right? Lions entered last year with massive expectations. They finished at 9-8, missed the playoffs. And for a team that was talking Super Bowl the year before, that wasn't good enough. And I know the organization understands that. And you can now see the organization even operating differently. Lions skipped their rookie minicamp. Brad Holmes didn't attend some of the offseason meetings so he could focus on other things. They moved away from things that they've traditionally done. And it's a message now coming from top down. It's about efficiency. It's about the evaluation and getting back to football. That's really what it is. We've heard Dan Campbell say that. No distractions, no hype trains, no victory laps in May. That's what it's all about. And I think it will create much more competition within the building at these off-season programs, veterans, young players, the recent draft picks. It's all about a focus. It's all about the one message to everybody involved. Every roster spot is going to be earned. They're not interested necessarily in what you've done before. They want to know what you're going to do for the Lions now. And there's a lot of players entering what we would say is make or break seasons here. You got guys on one-year deals, prove-it deals. The coaching staff appears determined. You obviously have the new offensive coaching staff. They want to prove things. They want to prove that they're here to win. And they're going to let this competition decide everything here in the offseason. I think it's what this team needed to do. Again, if they're not going to go out and make splash moves, throw all their chips in the middle of the table, and they're going to stick to their philosophy, then they need to clean up their philosophy. They need to get back to that grit mentality that they had in previous years. They've spent so many years building this culture, and they're acting like a team that's tired of talking about potential and ready to start demanding results. That's what we want to hear. That's what we want to see. I don't think the head coach is messing around anymore. I think the message is simple. Everyone's out there to prove it. It's a business-first mentality. I love that from our organization. Let's hope it translates to the field. That's the ultimate goal. They might be a tougher team this year than people expect because of this mentality. So let's hope they can stay true on the injury side, keep things clean, but get back to this culture that they've built now for 4, 5, 6 years. Let me know what you think. Are you buying this no-nonsense approach from the Lions? Do you feel that? Have you heard that in the OTA conversations? Or is this just more off-season coach speak? Let me know. I'd love to hear from you guys. Drop your thoughts in that chat. Let's hear what you got going on. What do you think of this no-nonsense approach from the Lions? What's up, Robert? How you doing, my dog? How you doing? Meet and greet in Ann Arbor. Okay, cool. That'll be awesome. Tell him what up from the Johnny Gaz Sports crew. No, don't say that. He won't have any idea what you're talking about. Just have fun. That'll be great. And he's holding a youth camp. Love that. Him and JMO do a lot of give backs. I love that so much. Yeah, Jody, it was a great time. Well, like I said, we're going to get together. We'll have many shows like that. We'll create some fun content together and get you guys involved. It's a lot of fun. Absolutely. Staying healthy is the key. They got to do it. Got to have it this year, guys. That's going to be the key. I love it. We got some small worlders in the chat. I like that, guys. I love that we have this little small community growing, and I love you guys for staying a part of it. Thank you so much. Consistency, this culture, staying healthy. again, we had a big discussion about Myles Garrett, and I don't want it to take away from what the Lions have done this offseason. I'm still very happy with where this roster is at, the depth they've built. There's still a lot of questions. What happens with the safeties? Does the defensive line, are they able to get after the quarterback? Time to pressure? Did they rebuild the offensive line the way we think they did? Can Drew Petzing in this new offense continue the dominant offensive side of the football the Lions have been for several years? So there's a lot of questions, but they've set themselves up for success. You're hearing the right things from the coaching staff. I don't think they're affected by this Myles Garrett thing, and I think they'll move forward. All right, I got one more fun thing for us today. I think you guys can get involved in this. I hope you'll get involved in this. I love your input. So I think it was Sports Illustrated had come out with their top 25 most impactful Lions heading into 2026. And obviously a lot of that's opinion-based, and it's a prove-it league. So like Millicent says, a lot of this is a little bit too early to gauge. But as we do here in the sports world, we love to predict and, will things into existence. So today I have created, let me pull this up here. I have created for us, let's share the screen. Add to the stage. There we go. Let's do that. There we go. I like that. Okay. So I have created a Lions top 10 for 2026 based on the most important and impactful. Now, what I would like to do here with you guys, let's get rid of the banner. Hold on. Okay, we'll hide the banner. There we go. So I have kind of cut out 3, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 15 players. I've cut out 15 players that I think are the most impactful for the Lions as we head into 2026. Hopefully you can make out who all these players are. If not, I'll give you a heads up as we get into them. But what I would like to do is actually rank these players from 10 to 1 as far as the Lions' top 10 players for 2026. Now, we're going to look at it from two different ways, because it's a lot of people, when they do these lists, it's about impactful. What kind of impact will they have on the Lions in 2026? How important will they be to this team? So I think we not only have to look at it right here and now, but sort of project out what the future is for 2026. So let's go through this together. Let's try to rank the Lions' top 10 players for 2026. Let's start with player 10. Now, this is a mendable thing. You know what I'm saying? I can take this. I can take Aiden Hutchinson, move him around. We can blow him up, make him big, make him small. We can do a lot of things here. So just because we lock a player in at, let's say, 10, doesn't mean that he's necessarily going to stay there, okay? And I want your help with this. So we got our top 10 players here. Again, we have 15 guys, and if I don't have someone here, let me know. I will pull their face. We'll get them on here. Let me just give you the players that I had pulled. We have Jared Goff, Jahmyr Gibbs, the new draft pick, Blake Miller, Mr. Jack Campbell, the captain, J-Mo, Aleem McNeil, Derek Moore. We got Sam Laporta with that beautiful mustache. What a picture. We got Penei Sewell, Brian Branch, Kirby Joseph, Tyleik Williams, Cade Mays, the beautiful Isaac Tesla, and of course, you can't leave out Aiden Hutchinson. Again, if I've missed anybody, please let me know. But we're going to talk about the Lions' top 10 players for 2026. So out of this group of players, and I have not done this. I have not laid out a top 10. I'm going to do this with you guys. We may shuffle some things around. We may talk ourselves into something else. So at number 10, I'm going to put Tyleik Williams. Okay, and we'll put his name in here. My spelling, we're going to test my spelling. Tyleik Williams. And here's why I'm going to put him at number 10. And this is not to discredit Tyleik Williams. Obviously, there's a lot of players on this Lions roster. But I think Tyleik Williams is a big piece to what happens on this Lions defense. We talked about maybe Aleem McNeil's importance. Well, the guy playing next to Aleem McNeil will be Tyleik Williams. And he's entering year 2. And across the defensive line, especially in the interior, the Lions really need to get a better pressure, better time to pressure. So you're hoping that a healthy, reinvigorated Aleem McNeil now combined next to Tyleik Williams should create a force on the interior of this defensive line, allowing the edges to do the work they want them to do. He's also a big part of the run defensive game the Lions have developed and will continue to improve on over the next couple of years. So at the 10 spot, I will put Tyleik Williams. and don't know great adds to it, says that, and they don't have much depth on that interior defensive line. So we'll start it off with Tyleik Williams in spot 10. So moving up the list at number 9. And again, I'm thinking this out with you guys, so throw it out there if you guys see something else. At number 9, At number 9, I'm going to put Brian Branch, and that might seem a little low. Let me justify it for everybody, though. Again, we might move some things around if we can talk ourselves out of this, but at number 9, I'm going to put Brian Branch. Obviously, we talked about his importance to the defense. He is truly the Swiss Army knife for this defense. He can play up on the line. He can blitz. He's got the ball skills to play a deep safety, the nickel, outside. He really can play everywhere across your defense. I think the reason why I put him at 9 and maybe not higher is because of his current injury. We know with the Achilles, it just takes time. I think he will come back 100%, but I don't know if he comes back until we get closer to, let's say, Thanksgiving. So to me, that moves him down the list for impact. Now, when he does come back, he really needs to have an impact for this Lions defense. Let's hope they remain relatively injury-free so that it's not as much of a necessity as we think it has, or think it could be or has been in previous years. But that's why I have Brian Branch at number 9. And that's the thing, don't know. That's why I have him low. But I still think, in a sense of the season, if the Lions are going to do big things and do what we want them to do, I still think he has an impact. But again, that's why he's low on my list. Again, we could debate that. Maybe he shouldn't be on the list. You're right. It's very possible. So when we get through this, maybe he pops off. But for right now, I have him at number 9. At number 8, I'm going to put Jameson Williams. J-Mo. Jameson Williams might be the best number 2 wide receiver in the NFL as far as talent and what he can provide to a football team. But I think he still has room to grow. I think that with Drew Petzing now being involved, you have Kafka involved with the passing game coordination. I really believe they will find more clever ways to use Jameson Williams with his expanded route tree. I think they'll dive into that a little bit more, and I think you'll see him become more of a 1B type player this year versus an actual number 2 option. So you could argue he probably might not fall in this top 10 list, but for me, when you're going to look at your offense, and I think you need to have a guy that's going to take the top off, a guy that ultimately will demand bracket type coverage and allow you to do other things on your offense. J-Mo does a lot of those things. So to me, I think J-Mo belongs on this list, but let's see. Let's keep going up the list. At number 7, I'm going to put Derek Moore. Reason why I'm going to go with Derek Moore at number 7, we've clamored for an edge opposite Aiden Hutchinson for several years. The Lions finally went out and drafted an edge. They also went out and picked up DJ Wanham. They're wondering what they're going to get from Ahmed Hassanin, and we just talked about the importance of the interior and how it may affect the edge. This will give Derek Moore a ton of opportunity to make plays in year 1 for this Lions team. Working off of the opposite edge with Aiden Hutchinson will free up Derek Moore in his pass rush, and he needs to make an impact early. So I think it's important for Derek Moore to have a good preseason, to have a good offseason leading up into training camp and show that he can be the guy. You know, eventually I think they want him to be a 3-down edge, but right now between him and Wanham, I think Derek Moore will probably be more suited to the pass rush role. I think he'll have a ton of opportunity. And like the other edges we've seen play opposite Aiden Hutchinson, James Houston, Al-Qadim Muhammad, those guys were able to have big sack seasons because of what they're playing opposite. So Derek Moore, I think, has every opportunity and some to be the guy. So for that reason, I will put him at number 7. And number 6, I'm going to put Blake Miller. Obviously, the Lions' first-round pick this year, right tackle Blake Miller, looking to take over that position, allow Penei Sewell to move from right to left tackle. I think that alone shows you the importance and the impact that Blake Miller could and should have on this season. For the Lions' offensive line to be re-solidified, he's got to be a huge piece to this. He's going to play next to Tate Ratledge. You're going to have a very young right side of your offensive line, and Blake Miller's got to be a big part of that. And I have to then put Cade Mays as number 5. And here's why. Because if I'm going to sit here and tell you that the revamp of this offensive line is relying on your new players, well, Cade Mays is maybe the most important piece now to your new revamped offensive line. Replaces the center. Obviously, Graham Glasgow last year, and then Frank Ragnow previous to that was the anchor to this offensive line and made everything else work. Now we're looking outside the organization to a free agent you brought in this year. He's the only free agent you signed to a multi-year deal, and you're putting a lot of faith in Cade Mays to be the reason why this offensive line will get back to form in 2026. Because of that, I have him at number 5. I'm running out of spaces. I got 4 guys left, and I would say almost every one of these players here deserves to be on this list in some way. So we may shuffle some things around, but that's where I'm at right now. We may shuffle. Some guys may fall off this list. Number 4, I'm going to put Penei Sewell. We've been a heavy run on offensive linemen, but again, this Lions offense is predicated on what they do up front, protecting Jared Goff, getting the running game going. All of that relates back to the last 3 players we've just put up on this board. Penei Sewell is the cog that makes the offensive line run. He'll be the thing, the glue that holds us all together as they work through the transition of the new offensive line this offseason. And as they get into the regular season, hopefully this will all transition well, and that will be because of Penei Sewell. So his impact cannot be understated. I agree with you, Don't Know. He's coming up. That's why I have Penei Sewell. At number 3, I'm going to put Aleem McNeil. And we just talked about this, and Don't Know Grit just called it out. I mean, he is our interior pass rush. He will be the reason why Tyleik Williams is able to take a second-year leap. And really, I think Aleem McNeil will be a lot of the reason why the defensive line will have success in 2026. I really cannot emphasize enough what Aleem was bringing to this team, especially in the year where Aiden Hutchinson went down. He was everything all-pro that year, and that injury just derailed everything. So to have him back, re-energized, you heard him talk at OTAs. He feels good mentally, physically. It's all coming together. Yeah, I'm gonna end up moving guys around because, yeah, this isn't gonna work. So here's what I'm comfortable in doing. Isaac Tesla, I love the guy, I love the kid. I think he's gonna do good things this year, but I don't think he falls on this list. I just don't think at this point. And he may earn a spot. Let's say we watch the season play out. He may earn one of these top 10 spots when all said and done. But I think when I'm looking at this, he doesn't fit into this list. Now, Aiden Hutchinson certainly is a top 10 impact player. But when I'm looking at the other group of people here, we need these other guys to have an impact. I think it's because we expect Aiden Hutchinson to have a certain impact. Maybe that's not fair to him to not make this list, but that's kind of where I see it at this point. But for me, I have 2 spots left. And I have a lot of guys here that certainly deserve to be on this list. Sam Laporta, Kirby Joseph, Jack Campbell, Jared Goff, and Jahmyr Gibbs. Jahmyr Gibbs, I'm going to put at number 2. There's no secret that the Lions will need everything out of Jahmyr Gibbs. Now, with the absence of David Montgomery, there is no more Knuckles to the Sonic and Knuckles. It is all Sonic. They picked up Isaiah Pacheco to be that second option, but I think that even more makes Jahmyr Gibbs your number 1 guy. And he, I think, will have every opportunity this year to be your offensive player of the year. And I don't want to overstate this, but if the offense ultimately works to just feature him, he could be an MVP candidate. I mean, that's how good Jahmyr Gibbs is. Offensive Player of the Year candidate for sure. Maybe even bigger things. But because of that, he could solely be your offense. At times, I mean, your rushing game is going to rely on Jahmyr Gibbs. I just think he is everything right now. We do have Vaki. Shoot, I heard some talk about Vaki today, maybe returning to safety a little bit. How about that? At number 1, and I've said this before, I know this really isn't a surprise for a lot of people. I'm going to put Jared Goff. I don't think you can, again, you can't undersell the importance of Jared Goff to this football team. He's a winner. He's efficient. He's been a top 3 quarterback the last 3 years in almost every statistical category. And I think he is the most important and will be the most impactful player in a general sense on this Lions team. Now, you could argue that maybe Jared Goff in your mind isn't the most, but I just think when you're looking at the entire picture, if any one of these guys go down outside of Jared Goff, there are ways the Lions can figure it out. Now, if multiple pieces go down, and that's what we've seen over the last couple of years, you can't always adjust. But when you look at this top 10, the way I'm going to justify it is if you had to scratch one of these players from your football team due to injury, the one player you cannot afford to scratch from this list is Jared Goff. Your season is over if that's the case. So that's why Jared Goff will remain at the top as far as the most impactful Lion for 2026. Now, I do want to shuffle some things around. I'm going to take Tyleik Williams off this list. Brian Branch is now moving to 10. Whoops. I'm going to move Brian Branch to 10. Maybe. Because I want to add Kerby Joseph to this list. I think it's important that he's on this list, and I'll explain why. Now, we know, again, between him and Branch, we have some injury concerns. But the defense, to me, relies on these two characters. The long-term health of this defense, and if they're able to make a run, a true run, the defense has to improve. To be able to do that, I think Kerby and Brian have to be a part of this. So to me, I'm going to add Kerby as number 9. I even will put him ahead of Brian Branch because of this knee injury. Again, the expectation is Brian Branch will return. The Achilles will heal. He'll rehab it. He should hit the ground running. With Kerby's injury, it's kind of the unknown. And because of that, I think his importance and impact could be even more so. If he's able to give a productive 2026 season, then he will have major impact on this defense overall. That's why I would put Kerby above Brian at this point. But again, health is a big part of this. We really won't know. It also pains me to leave off Jack Campbell. I'm actually going to replace J-Mo with Jack Campbell. And certainly you could argue that Jack Campbell should be higher on this list. I think you could argue him maybe even all the way up to number 3, in my opinion. But I just feel like Jack Campbell, again, he is your defensive face. I put out a short that says he might be your most important defensive piece, even more so than Aiden Hutchinson. So I hate to leave him off this list. So I'm pretty comfortable with where we're at. Again, to not have Aiden on there is pretty difficult, but we talked about why. Again, because to me, all these pieces are made because of a guy like Aiden Hutchinson, and we expect him to have another all-pro type season. That's a lot. That's a lot to expect, but that's just where the guy's at this point. Isaac Tesla, again, time, more touches, more impact on the offense. I think we'll get him on this list. J-Mo made the list initially, could certainly have a major impact on this season that could supersede all these guys. But for me, I'm still looking there. Now, Sam Laporta, another one. His importance to the offense can't be understated. That security blanket for Jared Goff, what he does in the run game as far as helping with run protection, blocking, those kind of things. I mean, he's willing to put his nose in there. So absolutely, you could fit Sam Laporta, I think, somewhere in the middle of this list if you wanted to. But I'm pretty happy with how we laid this out. Let me know, guys, what do you think of this top 10? Would you have switched anybody out? Did I leave anybody off altogether on this list that we should have put on there? The fall-off of interceptions without Kerby Joseph is incredible. I mean, his ball hawk ability carries a lot of weight. It makes the whole secondary better. Makes the quarterbacks think differently about our defense. Goff has been the glue, Millicent. I agree 1,000%. I mean, he's the guy. He's got to be the guy. Look at that graphic. That's not bad, right? Graphic's pretty cool. We'll work on it. Clean it up a little bit, but that graphic's pretty cool, huh? That's totally fair. Captain Jack runs this team. Yeah, I can't, like, when I'm looking back at it, I can't not have him on this list. I mean, him and Aleem McNeil, I mean, they're going to be so important to what happens with this defense this year. Jody says, yeah, that's why we better get on finding our next quarterback. Not saying Goff is old, but he's not getting younger, and we have no one coming up behind him. Yeah, backup quarterback is a concern, Jody, for sure. I mean, that's why they went out and got Teddy Bridgewater. I think they wanted to at least have trust in whoever the number 2 guy is. Again, if you got to turn to Teddy Bridgewater at any point during the season, things have gone really bad. You don't want that to be the case. So I agree with you. They got to build up depth. Is Drew Aller, or not whoever the guy's name is, the undrafted free agent that they picked up, the quarterback, could he be the solution? Is it possible? Don't know. That you're right. Good catch. You're right. Terry and Arnold should be on that list. We're gonna get it. Let's get his head up there. There we go. We'll get him up there. But I agree. Again, I don't know if I would have reevaluated him to be a part of the top 10. I don't know that I would have put him in. It's very important, though. He is a very important piece of this whole thing. He really is. Can I get back to this? There we go. Yeah, having Terry and Arnold, that's smart. That's a good call. I should have had Terry up there in the beginning, but I don't know that I put him above any of these guys. But you're right. We don't, with Kirby and Brian up there, you're really only thinking about your safeties. They need help in the corner room as well. They need one of those guys, DJ Reed, Terry and Arnold, to be the lockdown, stay healthy. Enos Rakestraw, what does he provide? No, you're right, don't know. And he absolutely should be included, at least in the graphics. So we'll put him up there. No problem. Altmaier, there it is. Drew Altmaier. Couldn't think of the name. But yeah, Drew Altmaier, he'll kind of be a practice squad quarterback. Maybe, maybe he can grow into something. See you later, Millicent. Appreciate you hanging around. You have a good night. No worries. Yeah, that's what we're about here. All about the graphics here at Johnny Gaz Sports. So I thought that it was fun. When I saw the article from Sports Illustrated, I was like 25. I don't know if I want to do 25. And there certainly are 25 impactful players we could have come up with. I mean, you see here, we could have kept going. But to me, just to break it down to the top 10, and I'm not saying this is your absolute top 10. Obviously, you guys have a different version of this. You could shuffle some players around. You could add a couple guys in that we have on the sideline here. The bottom line is the Lions have put together a really, really good roster. And we talked about the Myles Garrett thing and everything they would have had to have given up to make that sort of move. And I just don't see, there aren't a lot of players here that you're willing to sacrifice in that case that don't make this Lions team go for 2026. So I feel really good about where they're at, guys. We're going to cut the live right there. It's been a fun night. I appreciate you guys. It was a fun top 10 discussion. Everything today was a lot of fun going through Tigers, Pistons, and Lions. We got the NBA Finals tomorrow, Wednesday night, Knicks and Spurs. I'll be watching that one pretty heavily. And obviously the OTAs second week will kick off tomorrow as well. So we'll be getting a lot of news from Allen Park and everything that's going on around town there. So I'll keep you posted. We'll have content each and every day. I'm actually going to be off this Thursday. There will be no live this Thursday, the 4th. I have some obligations with my kids' school and some sporting events we got to go to. So I don't know if I'll be available Thursday night. So we're going to take the night off Thursday. I'll be back next week, Tuesday and Thursday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. Again, I appreciate all you guys so much. Don't Know Grit, Lightning, Millicent, Jody, Mile Marker, Dave, how you doing? Appreciate you. Actually, David said, is Dan Campbell too busy biting kneecaps to win big games? I don't know, man. Looks like he wants to bite some more kneecaps this year. We'll see if it wins games, though. Robert Murphy, appreciate everybody for being involved in the chat. Thank you so much. Like I say at every live at the end, make sure to take care of yourself. Your mental health, it's so important. If you can't take care of yourself, you can't take care of the ones around you. So reach out to somebody if you need someone to talk to. I'm here for you. Chat's here for you. Therapy's out there. My wife works in mental health. There's a lot of good teletherapy options as well. So many good avenues to take if you need it. But other than that, I just hope everybody's having a fantastic week. Enjoy the rest of your week ahead. Again, I'm going to be off Thursday, but there'll be content each and every day. Reach out to me through the Facebook page, all of your social networks. Search for @Johnny Gaz Sports. You will find concise and reliable Detroit sports content each and every day. Thanks to you guys for being involved in the channel. You are what makes this so great and what makes this worthwhile. All right, everybody have a fantastic night. I will see you all very, very soon. Love ya. Peace. Good night, everybody. Have a fantastic evening. See you real soon.